So I meditated every single day for 5 months using Dr. K or Healthy Gamers meditation guide. If you haven't checked that out yet, go and check that out. I'm going to cover the benefits, the drawbacks, and what you can do in the future, and what I'm going to be doing in the future to mitigate those drawbacks if you've experienced it while you've been meditating. So the first point I'd like to go into, the positive stuff, the benefits. So I have noticed quite a few benefits from meditating for this time. First one is focus. So Dr. K uses an analogy whereby you have a lamp and a laser beam. And if you channel the same amount of energy through both, the lamp is going to light up the room, whereas the laser beam is kind of a dialed in singular point of light which can travel far further. And that analogy is kind of used for your attention span. And your ability to direct your attention where you want it to. And the idea is when you meditate for a while, you start to develop more and more of that laser beam where you can kind of focus in on exactly what you want to, when you want to. This is quite a big factor for me because I kind of felt like I've always had it where I'll want to concentrate on things. And I'll find it actually really difficult, especially in school when I'd be working and my mind would just drift off. Or I'd say something really stupid in front of my mates, and they'd all take the piss, and then I'd be thinking in my head why did I say that? I knew what I was meaning to say, and it's just because that my brain feels like it's kind of everywhere and not really sitting in one place. So by meditating, you definitely do get that ability to return your attention back in and sort of focus on exactly what you want to, and that's massive for basically everything you do in life. I think another point I'd like to say is for work, for example, this is super important. So I started a job fairly recently. I'm working as a physio, and there's a lot of learning to be done. And when you have to do a lot of learning, being able to hyper focus your attention makes it significantly easier to learn. Like on my job interview, for example, which was a couple of months ago now, I literally prepared in about 2 hours for it. And I was so confident after that 2 hours because my attention was spot on, that didn't need to do any more preparation. I felt good and I felt prepped, and I went in and got the job straight away and absolutely smashed it. And I think that a lot of that can be attributed to that increase in focus and increase in being able to just pinpoint exactly what you want to focus on. Another point I'd say is it's almost going to sound like the pill in Limitless. So if you've seen the film Limitless with Bradley Cooper, where he takes that pill and he's kind of everything's lit up and it looks pretty lit. It's not quite like that, obviously. It'd be sick if it was, but there's definitely elements where I thought okay, wow, I wasn't expecting my brain to be able to do this after meditating. And one of those things as well was memory recall. So when I'd be kind of just sat there, things would come into my mind when I wanted to remember them. And often before, it felt like I had sort of early onset Alzheimer's or something when I was sort of just sitting there trying to think of what I was going to say or trying to remember what I had to remember. I'd be sitting there thinking, oh, what is it? And then after you've meditated for a while, you've got a thought in your head that you need to remember. It kind of just appears and it's out of nowhere. It's almost like all the fog has been cleared from your brain, which is massive. It's really a massive benefit, especially kind of when you're speaking to people as well and you don't want to be all weird and have to kind of think oh, what was I going to say? I was trying to remember something. It just kind of flows a little bit more easily. That can kind of get into the whole social side of things. Socially, I think there are definitely benefits from meditating, namely just being able to have a good conversation with someone and actually focus on what they're saying and the kind of more minute parts of their social interaction where you can kind of feel them a bit easier because you're actually focused. I think a big part of it as well is just kind of getting people and getting things that you're doing. I think before I had a big problem where wasn't a big problem. I mean, there's definitely bigger problems, but where I would kind of not fully get the gist of something, or not really get the gist of what someone is saying to me. And I think when you meditate for a bit, it kind of clears all that fog and all of that weird that weird sort of area where you're not quite sure and you don't quite understand what people are saying, you don't quite understand where people are coming from. And once that fog's cleared, it makes it a lot easier to kind of understand people's points of view, which is great, which is good. Something I'd say as well, sorry, I've got notes here which I'm looking at, which I know if I've meditated for 5 months, I should have no notes and it should just be like a script in my brain that I'm reading, but sadly it's not the case. Something as well in terms of action. I think if you meditate a lot, actionable, you become a lot more actionable to be able to kind of think what you want to do and then actually do it and just implement kind of what you're doing. I feel like there's a lot of resistance in day-to-day life where people will kind of be walking around thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I'll delay that, I'll do that tomorrow. When you meditate for a lot, it kind of almost cuts out the bullshit a little bit and you just think, all right, bang, I've got to do that thing now. And it's almost like ridiculous that you'd kind of put it off because you don't want your mind to get distracted by anything else. You kind of want to keep it pinned on a path. That can also be a negative though, I'll get to that in a second. So yeah, in terms of everything else as well, you do also get to experience a deep meditative state. And I don't know how many people have experienced a deep meditative state before, but it's pretty nice. It's you know, all your stresses of the day and everything, when it kind of feels like it's weighing down on you, just kind of lifts off and you're sat there like, oh, that feels nice. It's literally it's like taking a backpack off, the proverbial emotional backpack that you peel off your back. So yeah, that's something as well. I will actually make a separate video if you guys are keen on how I find ways to reach that deep meditative state more effectively. So let me know in the comments if you guys actually want to see another video like that, because I think it'd be quite cool. I've got a few tips and tricks that I think can help people who are struggling. Also, you kind of get a bit of a reset if you do reach this meditative state, or if you do meditate well and you have a good session. You can kind of have a reset, and depending on when you do it in the day, if you get one in the morning, it can really set your day off well. I actually prefer to meditate at night as well. I'll say this in a future video as well, but for better sleep as well, if you get into a good meditative state before bed, you often drift into such nice sleep, and you just feel super well rested. Cool. And then better skills. Oh yeah, one final thing which is kind of weird, and I don't know if this is like placebo or, you know, I don't really know what it is, but skill acquisition. So physical skills. I'm talking playing pool, playing snooker, you know, where you're hitting the ball into the table, into the holes on the table. So how I came across this was I was just out with my friends and we were literally just playing some snooker, and I hadn't played it in maybe 5 years, but for some reason I could just literally play it like unbelievably well, just because I had this like laser focus where I was like, okay, bang, that's going to go in there, that's going to go in there. And it's kind of like you can reach like a flow state. You know how they say like Michael Jordan will reach like flow states in basketball and stuff like that. I felt like the Michael Jordan of snooker when I did that. But no, it's like your brain can kind of prepare for focusing in terms of skill development as well. I think the fact that there's less fog makes it really easy for you to, I'm chatting out my arse here really, I don't know why it's the case, but I just find like skills in general were easier. I do surfing as well, and I found like I got better at surfing just by meditating, which is nuts to me because it's like I'm not on a board while I meditate. I wasn't meditating at sea, which is pretty crazy. Issues. So some issues or some downsides to the meditation, which is interesting because I wasn't expecting there to be any really. Obsession. So something that is kind of interesting in meditation is once you get a handle on your mind, because it's often kind of, if you've seen Dr. K's stuff, he can often kind of weigh it up as like your concentration versus your mind. So it's like, are you going to let your brain dictate like where your control and where your focus goes, or are you going to control it? and you have this little battle in your head. And for me, I got very obsessed with always trying to beat my brain, and trying to be the one who's in charge of my brain, which can have its downsides. Namely, you kind of become a bit of a weirdo. This is might just be me being weird, but like, if you've experienced this, let me know, because it's kind of interesting. When you're going out with friends, for example, I was just so obsessed with it. Like, I would just talk about it every opportunity. I'd be trying to convince them to meditate as well. And like, it's a positive thing. You're trying to get your friends to meditate, and like, it's a good thing. But at the same time, like, sometimes your boys just want to relax and chill out and, you know, just chat shit. And that's completely fair enough. And I think you can come across way too overbearing if you're kind of trying to indoctrinate them into this meditative practice. And now I'm obsessive about things, so that might just be me, but I think it's an important point to mention, especially if you have some mental health things before going into meditation. It's something to consider. Obviously, if you have mental health things, you're probably not even concerned about that at the moment. And I definitely recommend meditating if you do. Obviously, I'm not a professional, so yeah, don't take that advice as, you know, solid gold. But I think if you are dealing with some sort of mental health issues, and then you meditate and you find that your symptoms massively improve, that is kind of a reason why you'd get a bit obsessive over it and kind of start to be like, all right, well, I need to meditate all the time here. And that leads me to another issue, is that if you get too obsessed with trying to control your mind and trying to control your meditation, that can backfire, and actually you don't meditate as well, because a big part of that meditation is not having any expectation, and also trying to stay relaxed as possible while you're meditating. And if you start putting loads of stress on it and being like, I need to meditate at 7 a.m. every morning after my 5-hour cold shower, like, it's just not going to be the mindset that you need to actually reach a meditative state. You need to be able to show up in a way that is relaxed. Consistency is important, but just try to stay relaxed while you stay consistent, which sounds simple, but it's actually quite difficult. So that's something to consider. And how am I overcoming these issues? So I've been recently reading a book that was recommended to me by a guy called Stephen Root. Check out his YouTube channel, I'll link it down below. But it's essentially a book called Letting Go by David Hawkins. And it essentially addresses some of these issues. If you've kind of meditated for a while, it's a really good book to start reading, because a lot of the principles that he suggests are very, very easily implemented if you've meditated for a while. I was talking about that laser focus. It comes in really useful here. And it's all about basically how your emotions are responsible for your thoughts, rather than your thoughts being responsible for your emotions. So you basically just need to, when a negative emotion comes up, such as stress, fear, anxiety, anything like that, you just simply hyper focus on the sensations in your body, and this will kind of process that emotion properly. And after a time, it might be 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, that will then release, and you'll be kind of free of the emotion, or the emotion will be let go. And after practicing this for a couple of days, it's crazy how quickly it has an effect. I've been doing it for about 2 months now. So that's something that's huge. And that ties into meditation as well, because like I was saying, if you're getting overly stressed and overly obsessive about when you need to do your meditation, and I need to do it at 7 a.m. every morning, this is something that will really help, just to let go of those expectations, because that's massive. That's a massive thing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. One final thing, actually, one bonus benefit, is that what I was saying with my work and how I felt smarter. I meditated during the phase when I was actually kind of doing okay at university. I was kind of on for a low 2-1, which I'd had to graft for and work really hard for. And then after meditating, the third year of university was a complete breeze. And this might have just been meditation. it might have been some other factors, but I personally think meditation did play quite a big role in it, and I ended up getting a first very, very easily. And I'm not saying that will happen for you, but I mean, it's worth trying. And it's only, it's a net positive from what I've experienced. It's just more trying to get over the kind of obsessive nature of your brain. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it. If you guys want another video, like I said, about meditation, I will post another one about how to reach a deep meditative state and the tips I used. But yeah guys, smash that like button. My first video, let's go, let's get it popping off. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Cheers.